Tonight on this special presentation of Crime Stories with sleight of hand artist Ricky J, we'll bring you the hottest scams around. No matter who you are, con artists can get you anywhere. And they do. These criminals use charm, diversion, and sleight of hand as their weapon of choice.
I'm Fay Faron, private investigator, and we're going to show you how it's done and what you can do to keep from getting ripped off.
Okay, come on, let's go. We got a little game called Little Monty. Follow the queen. Here we go. Where do you think the queen is? Come on. Don't touch the card. There we go, the end card. Okay, pay the man. Hey, the man's got it. Congratulations, we got another winner. Want to play a little game? All you got to do is follow the queen, okay? Just follow the queen. Nice and easy. Where do you think it is? Just put your money on the queen. She says it's in the middle. Hey, pay the lady. Congratulations, we got another winner. Hey buddy, come here, I want to show you a little game here. It's called Follow the Queen of the Monty. Did you ever play this before? This is really neat.
Counts of Monty often are hard to distinguish between Spanish Monty, which is a legitimate card game, played with a full pack of cards or a 48-card deck, and three-card Monty, which is played with only 3 cards and is not a game of chance at all. It's an absolute swindle.
That's the one, that's the one. We got to win.
It says in the middle. Oh man, I tell you what.
Got to watch it.
Here we go. I'll tell you what we're going to do.
The Monty player accidentally on purpose drops a card on the floor.
I feel a little sorry for you, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you another shot here. You got $100? Just put them across any 2 cards. Which 2 cards you want? Okay, he says the 2 end cards here. Okay, let's see where we are. Oh man, I don't know what you did here, but you know,
The cops. How is it that these people can pick the right cards and the loser always picks the wrong one?
Well, first of all, the people that win are always the shills. A victim never, ever wins in the money game.
Okay, what's a shill?
A shill is the people that work for me.
Okay, and this was not some nice little lady in a parking lot?
Oh, she is a nice lady, but she works for me. She's going to go out there and help me get a victim. And what she's going to do is approach somebody that she thinks has money, try to introduce them into the game, and then at that point, we're going to try to con them.
Okay, so this is obviously sleight of hand.
Right. What I'll do is I'll flip the card with one of the cards that he didn't take. So I'll take this as an ace, and actually when I flip it, I'll show that that queen is now an ace. A lot of times what we'll do is a sucker bet where we'll give him a choice of a card that he already peeked at. Like when the one shill told me that I dropped something, I turned around, I turned my back.
Yeah, she helped him out, right?
Sure, she wanted him to cheat me. So when I came back, I knew she did that because it's all prearranged.
Well, then how do the shills know which card will make them win?
I may move this hand here and say, place your bet. If the queen is over here, okay, at this end, I may move this hand, okay? They also use toothpicks sometimes because a lot of times the victim isn't going to look at the tosser. He's going to be watching the cards. He wants to see where that queen is.
Right.
So I'm going to signal to my shills where that queen is. If I put it in the corner of my mouth, that means it's over here. If I put it in this corner, it's over here. And that's as easy as it is.
And are the cops really on their way? Or is
Well,
that a con
no,
too?
that's a con because it could be that the victim may get a little suspicious and think that, hey, maybe he's being cheated, which he is.
The shell game is much older. On the English racetrack, it was known as thimble rigging. In the language of the hustler, it might be called the hinks, the dinks, the blocks, the nuts. There are always slang terms for it, nuts being because they're walnut shells. What you have to understand is they really are not games of chance. Even if you correctly identify the thimble under which the P exists for the moment, you're not going to win your money.
I gotta know, how did you do this?
Well, I thought I did it pretty well. I fooled you.
Obviously.
Well, here, I'll show you real fast.
Okay.
You got 3 shells, and you got a P.
Right.
What you do is you cover the P with one of the shells.
Okay.
Okay. Now what you do is you move all these shells around, like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you just pick the one that, well, see, you weren't watching. Here, maybe I did it a little bit too fast for you. I'll do it a little bit slower, okay? You're watching?
Yep.
Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just take the 2 end ones. That way I won't confuse you. Well, no, well, see, you weren't watching again.
Okay, well, how did you do this? Obviously, it's another sleight of hand thing.
Right. It's basically like the money game. I cheated you. I'm never going to let a victim win.
Okay.
The only people I'm going to let win are the shills.
Well, what's the sleight of hand involved, though?
Well, what happens is when I push this, I actually steal the P. and I actually take it in my hand, in my fingers here. So if I want to load it, I just bring it back, and it's loaded.
Okay, or you can put it wherever you want.
When you push this, you put pressure on it, and the more pressure you put, it pops out the back there. So and that comes right into your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So when you want to bring it in, you just bring it backwards. You just let it go, and it goes right inside the shell.
So you could have it in your hand, and it wouldn't be under anything.
Right. You can put that over there. They can guess that, and you can actually show that it's not there, but it really is.
I think there's a tendency for people to look at a game like three-card Monte or the shell game and think they're involved in some sort of fascinating little entertainment. And what they're not realizing is when you see it played on the street, not on a show, but on the street, that you're dealing with a mob of criminals, and that it is not a street entertainment, and it's not an amusement, and that if you get involved in a situation like that, you can be in serious physical danger.
Some people say that if you stop for a street game, you're asking for trouble. But even if you keep walking, trouble can find you.
Oh, no problem. But some cons aren't based on confidence. They work on distraction, misdirection, sleight of hand, and you can be a victim just by walking down the street. This is Detective Lothal Crawford of the New York City Police Department. Lothal, they tell me you're an expert at spotting pickpockets. Can you show us how it's done?
It's very easy. My partner just ripped you off.
Oh.
The first thing I learned was that picks, as cops call them, often work in teams.
Miss, you just dropped your money.
I also learned how one pick will often bump into you, calling your attention to one pressure point on your body while his partner works another. And how important diversion is when going for the dip.
Oh, great. Excuse me. Give me a break here. Okay, how much is it?
$1.
God, I don't have my wallet. I can't believe it. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, I can't find my money.
So how do pickpockets learn their trade? Pickpocket school, of course. This is Jenny. On this surveillance footage, we watch as she leads 5 pickpocket wannabes down their new career path. This is called the bump and stall. Notice how the gang pins in the victim, then passes the cash back to a cohort. Pickpockets can work alone. Watch again. Notice how she holds the jacket to cover her hand. They also work in teams. Everybody has a part on the team: the pick, the lookouts, and the blocks. Watch when the woman notices something is wrong and runs. Notice how the blocks draw the attention away from Jenny.
The idea of signaling is ancient. The term that's most often used to describe it, even today, is the office, giving the office, tipping the office. And that basically means any sort of covert signal to alert someone that things are going well or badly. You might see a con man do that, and another con man do that, or adjust his hat, a sign to say everything is going okay.
This Las Vegas gambler is waiting to cash in his chips. One team member tries the same "you dropped a buck" bet on him that Tom pulled on me. When the victim bends over, his cohort reaches into the cage and grabs $1,200 in winnings. So how do you protect yourself? Ladies, only carry a handbag with a shoulder strap and a zipper or a locking flap, and carry the flap next to your body. And men, keep your wallet in your inside breast or front pocket, and wrap a rubber band around it so it won't slide out quite so easily. Up next, the real reason you can't win a Kewpie doll at the county fair.
Were you maybe all-star on your high school basketball team, yet you can't seem to win a teddy bear at the county fair? Hey, what's up with that? carnival is as American as apple pie. This is investigator Bruce Wallstead. Hiya, Bruce.
Hi, Fay.
When we think that we're just out for a day of family fun, what's really going on with the games on the Midway?
Well, Fay, step right up. We'll show you a few things. We'll show you how some of these games work. Matter of fact, let's get started. You got $1, and I'll show you exactly how some of these things
You're
work.
scaring me now, Bruce, I'll tell you.
Well, actually, let's start out with one of the most, I guess you could say, one of the most classic games on the Carnival Midway today, and that's
great.
Knock Down the Milk Bottle game. We've all seen this game.
I've lost at this.
So have I, as a matter of fact, as a young man.
Okay.
But the idea is, what the carny does is he stacks up the 3 bottles, and you get 1 ball, and you have to knock down all 3 bottles with 1 ball, or knock them all off the little stool that it happens to be on, depending on how he's playing it.
Okay.
What most people don't understand is, this is the standard bottle, and this weighs 1 pound.
Yeah.
And that's the way they come from the factory.
That sounds easy.
Now, sometimes some carnival people have been known to add a tad of lead to the bottle.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
Just a bit, yeah.
Which makes it a little more difficult for the player to win.
That would be harder.
And on some strange occasions, carnies have even been known to put a little more lead in the bottle.
Give me a break. I can barely lift this.
This bottle probably weighs about 15 pounds. This bottle weighs in the area of about 10, 12 pounds.
Oh,
and if you
brother.
add it all up, it's just under 30 pounds for the set. And how about
It's like
this?
lifting
This is
weights.
the ball that you're given. It appears to be a 12-inch regulation softball.
Yeah.
In reality, it's filled with cork.
Oh,
So here's what
boy.
happens. When
No
they set
way.
these bottles up, they set up the light one on top, the 2 heavy ones on the bottom. So even if you do get a nice direct hit right in here, what'll happen is you will knock one down, the top one will come down, and maybe even this one will fall down, but this one here, right here, Faye, this 15, 16 pounder, I'd have trouble knocking this down with my 9mm.
Yeah, really. Bruce, I'm good at this one. I can win with this. I really feel like I can.
Well, that's just why, Faye, because you feel you can, you think you can. That's why this game is so popular at the Midway. Let me show you a few things here. First of all, the rims are generally non-regulation size, and this is obviously non-regulation size. Another thing that they've been known to do is bend the rim. Now try putting the ball through there, and look what happens. I mean, it just barely makes it.
Yeah.
Now, most people are also used to shooting from a, when the hoop is at 10 feet, they'll move it to 12 feet. They'll move it to 11 feet. So now you're shooting with a non-regulation height. The rim is non-regulation in size and bent in many cases. And then they'll take the ball and overinflate it. They'll put extra pounds of air in it. So when you hit the backboard, the ball will tend to go further away than you're used to. So there's a lot of little factors into that. But the thing that makes this game so appealing on the Midway is that everyone has one in their backyard. Everyone's played basketball.
They feel like an expert going into this, right?
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of other games on the Midway that use a ball to play. Let's talk about some of those. And Faye, so the gimmick on this game is this. Based on the angle of the easel, the positioning of the basket, and the distance you throw the ball from, and of course the weight of the ball, it's impossible to win this game, or virtually impossible. Yet the operator can demonstrate it and win almost every time. And here's the way he does it. First of all, he might try doing it from inside the booth, okay, which is easy because he doesn't have to throw the ball as hard. It hits here and makes the fall into the basket. But let's say you ask him to come outside and do it. He will. And what he does is he cheats to win. He does it one of 2 ways. The foul line can either be a 2x4 at ankle height or a 2x4 with some bunting on it at waist height. And what he does is he bends in the foul line. He'll push his waist into it. He'll push his ankle into it. To draw your attention away from it, what he does is, as he's going to push that in, he'll say, look at the ball, watch how I throw the ball, watch how I throw the ball, and he pushes and moves himself 6 or 8 inches closer. Now he doesn't have to throw as hard, hits here, the ball drops into the basket. On one occasion, I actually caught a guy who had the foul line ankle high. Because he did it all day, he actually wore a shin guard down on his ankle because he pressed on that 2x4 all day. So Faye, now you know why you can't win this game. They call it bank a ball, they should probably call it bank your buck.
So, Bruce, are there any games you can win?
Well, sure, a lot of the games on the Midway you can win, but for example, here's one that you can win, but it's a bit deceptive. This is called the punks, or the hats, whatever you like to call it, and the object is you have to knock 1, 2, or 3 of these down with an equal number of balls to win the game. Well, what most people don't realize is, maybe you kind of get the idea of it, but look at the size of this punk. It looks pretty big, doesn't it? When you take and cut away all that fur, this is basically what you're left with. So there's a tad of a difference there. Then, these are just canvas flaps up here that the fur attaches to. So now you get down to something that's this small. So, from you go from this to something like this. Then you have to take into account the following. The cat sits in a shelf like this. Now, from the angle, you can see that there's this, what's called, a faceboard on here. The faceboard, what it actually does is this. If you look, if the ball were to come in, if it hits here, you miss the punk. If it hits here, you get it. So in reality, what you're left with, when you think you get this big target like this, the actual target you're throwing at is something this size right here, as opposed to this over here. So it's a game you can win, it's difficult, and it's a bit deceptive.
So Bruce, of all the games on the Midway, which one do you think the cops have the most trouble patrolling?
Well, there's several, and they're what we call two-way games, and here's a prime example of one right here, Fay. Here's the object of the game. Pick up the fork, and all you have to do is hook it right in this area of the bottle, stand the bottle up, say 3 times in a row. So go ahead. And the trick is to go nice and slow at the end, and there's one, and every time you do it, the carny keeps score by pushing one of those little washers off. There's 1, 2 more, and you got yourself a winner, young lady. There you go.
Okay.
Take your time. Don't push at the end, that's the secret. But women seem to have a better touch for this game than men for some reason or another. I don't know why. And there's 2, that's perfect. You push the last one. 1 more, you got yourself a winner, young lady.
I'm feeling good about this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very simple game to play.
Right.
Everybody wins. You can't lose the game unless you lose it. Oh, you know what you did? You nudged it at the end, Fay. You nudged it at the end. Actually, I'm going to show you how I cheated you on that, Fay, because I did cheat you. Every single bottle that comes out of the mold has a naturally light and heavy side to it. So if I place the bottle in this position right here with the light side up, try it, you can win the game. Just go nice and slow like you did before, you can win the game. Now, when I want to switch sides of the bottle, I do this. That's the reason for the coins or for the washers there. Push it off. See what I've just done? I've turned the bottle upside down now. Heavy side up. Watch what happens this time. You push it right over every time. This is what's known as a two-way game, and very haunting to us in law enforcement.
Now, this is not to say all games at the county fair are rigged. How can you tell the difference? Sadly, it almost takes a professional. The point is, play to play, not to win. Coming up next, cons designed to steal your heart. If the basic ingredient of a con is to play upon a person's vulnerability, then it just makes sense that sex would figure in there somewhere.
Basic concept here is that a person meets a woman and has some assignation with her in a hotel room and is in some way shaken down. The sucker is brought into a room. He makes sure the door is securely locked. While they're otherwise engaged, somebody sneaks into the room, rifles the pants of the sucker, and takes his money. The more interesting versions usually involve a shakedown where there's a sudden pounding on the door. It's the irate husband, and in order to calm his nerves, to settle his, to assuage his wrath, a payoff is made necessary.
Stealing your money is one thing, but what really hurts is when they steal your heart.
Perhaps the cruelest hoax of all is the sweetheart scam. Whether it's a simple crime of opportunity or the perp actually chooses and stalks their victim, it's a scam where the con artist gets up close and way too personal.
We met in church. It was during the annual summer picnic, and he was part of that group. I kind of befriended him. He seemed like he was having a lot of problems. He was confiding in me. He needed a friend.
Tell me about the courtship. Was it romantic? Did he start off with flowers?
It started out as a friendship, and it turned into this falling in love thing, although I think it was just me falling in love with him. He sent me flowers maybe once. Once he bought me a few things. He paid for dinner a couple times.
What was the first sign that you had that something was wrong?
There were so many red flags. He had a cell phone, but then that would be turned off. He had a pager, but then that would be turned off. It was always impossible to find him the way he had it structured.
What were some of the ways that he used to get the money out of you?
The stories got more and more bizarre. The mob was after him, and then his life was in danger, and then the mob knew who I was, so my life was in danger. The mob knew where my family lived, so my family was in danger. A lot of my friends and family were trying to open my eyes, but when you're loving somebody, it's hard for you to see. You have blinders on. I slowly was mentally breaking down where I couldn't even function anymore. He would come to me and ask for money, and I would just find a way to give it to him because I couldn't deal with the reality anymore.
Why do you feel like it was fraud?
After a year's time, I knew that it was a deception, that he didn't really love me. I found out that he had another girlfriend of 4 years. There was never a relationship going on in his mind. In my mind, there was. I was just there to provide him with the money that he needed all the time. I think what finally put it in my head that this is absolutely wrong is when I got a credit card bill with $2,500 on it for a hotel. Called the hotel, found out it was him, found out that he'd been living in this hotel, unbeknownst to me, for 9 months.
What do you think was the worst thing about this experience?
I lost myself. I really lost who I was. I lost touch with reality and with people and with my family and with my friends, and the destruction of who I was as a person, mentally, physically, financially. I'm selling my house to pay back his debt. I lost over $30,000. And this is probably one of the first times I'm actually saying that because it was really hard for me to admit that that would happen to me.
Sweetheart scams such as Gina's are rarely prosecuted. DAs are afraid jurors will find themselves hopelessly deadlocked in a case of he said, she said. So where do you go when you have troubles with your love life? Ironically, many of us turn to another arena wrought with fraud.
You're a good person, but you really, oh geez, you have a very long life. Very, very fortunate lady, but unlucky in love, I'm afraid. I'm lucky in love, but I can help you with it.
Cold reading is a strategy to tell you everything about yourself. We are very, very open books, and we think we're not. We think we're sitting very carefully and we're not moving around and we're not showing any emotion, when in reality, even moving an eyebrow will make a difference. What people don't realize is that the muscle reactions in their hands tell the whole story. It usually starts out with generalities, very, very basic information that all of us share.
Joe, I'm feeling this pain. Who's sick in your family? Someone's sick. I can say, Jay? Jay is sick. Who's Jay?
And what will happen is the reader will then build on those generalities.
My brother?
Yes, your brother. I thought it was a woman,
but his name isn't Jay.
What is his name?
John.
John. Jay. John, it's the same.
More names begin with the letter J and M than any other name. And they'll start fishing.
I'm having a feeling. Who has back problem? You have a back problem too?
I do.
Many, many people have back pain.
Feeling your aura. And I noticed that it doesn't feel right to me. That doesn't feel right to me. And also I feel like as I'm looking around, I see the haze and I see this, I see a lot of red sparks. It's very, very angry. It's very, very angry.
To date, we have absolutely no scientific evidence that an aura exists.
What I can do is I can burn some candles for you. Okay, normally I can give you a good deal with this. I can do each candle for $100.
This is Joanne McMahon and Anna Lascarrain, and they're co-authors of Shopping for Miracles, A Guide to Psychics and Psychic Powers. Anna, you're a government attorney. Joanne, you're a parapsychologist. Why did you guys decide to write this book?
We wrote it primarily because we know that people believe in the reading that you just saw. And what we wanted to demonstrate was that maybe that wasn't the whole truth.
Do these people really believe that they have psychic powers?
Anna and I defined 3 different categories.
Yes.
The absolute positive frauds, people who know that what they're doing is not real. The true believers. They're essentially harmless folk who think that they have some level of psychic ability when they really don't. And then there's a whole category, a very small one, of true psychics.
What kind of a person comes to a psychic?
The younger people will come looking for love. Middle-aged people will come looking for information on money and their children. And also the elderly are concerned about health and finances and their grown children.
So when you're going to a psychic, there's no way to check their credentials, right?
Well, real psychics are not going to start asking you for large sums of money. Once you start crossing that line where people are trying to frighten you into paying them money so that they can cure a problem which they're saying you have, that's when you've crossed the border into fraud. And that's when going to a psychic isn't a parlor game anymore.
Up next, con artists with an identity crisis. And unfortunately, the identity may be yours.
How do they do it? How do con artists manipulate a victim to get what they want? Well, many use a ruse as old as fraud itself, quite simply by pretending to be somebody they're not.
This is an original wanted poster for one of the greatest 20th century con men, the Count Victor Lustig. And he's a wonderful classic con character for a number of reasons. One is that he sold the Eiffel Tower. He had a rather elaborate con to sell the Eiffel Tower to people as scrap metal. And the thing that I find so lovely about it is after that happened, and he was able to do it a second time. He actually sold the Eiffel Tower twice.
Let's do it.
A good con game is like a theatrical production. Every actor has a specific role to play. And like any performance, the action is carefully scripted. We'll show you how this works in a scheme called the bank examiner's scam.
So they'll basically come into town, and this comes right from the con artists. They'll come into town and start making setup calls.
Yes, is this Dolores?
The con artist's first goal is to find a suitable victim.
You know, I'm so confused. I was trying to get a hold of my friend Dolores, and I don't know her last name.
These are calls that very few victims recall. It'll be a wrong number.
Next, the con artist must gain the victim's confidence.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You see, I've got confused. I'm up there in years now, and I lost my Barney about 4 to 5 months ago. And how old are you?
What they're on is a fishing expedition. They're trying to glean as much information about the potential victim during this call as they can.
I'll be. That's the same. I'm 66 too. And when were you born? April? April what?
And then he'll get the person talking and say, "Oh, really?" Yeah. He said, "Well, I don't know. I don't understand banks. How do banks work?"
I have had such a problem with my banking statements and stuff. And do you bank? Where do you bank at? You bank at?
They gain your confidence. They suspend your ability to think by a series of tricks and traps.
Do you have the Twin Savers account just like me? Oh, you do. I know mine starts out with 342. Yours does too? Oh, okay. And that's exactly the way mine is. And you know, if you want, I'm getting that credit, and they give you such a nice fruit basket. And if you give me your Social Security number, I can get yours the same time I'm there. I can never remember mine. I'll wait while you get that. Okay, yes.
They then figure out how much money they can get.
You know, I've got a friend that's working out of there. There's a new thing, if they have your Social Security number, they can take your check. Did you know this? Right from the Social Security people. Oh, yes, you have yours direct deposited? Oh.
And then long after this call is forgotten, they'll get a call from Mr. Bank Examiner at their lending institution. This now sounds very credible because what do they know? They know the bank balance, they know that they banked there, when their last deposit was, so it leaves the person to believe that this person is actually from the bank.
So, says Mr. Phony Bank Examiner, we've got a little trouble at the bank. Crooked bank teller, need your help.
Okay, isn't that her coming out of there now? Oh man, that is her.
Now that the con artists have all the information they need, it's time to go in for the kill.
I'm Detective Mortier. I talked to you earlier on the phone with the police department. Do you remember?
Yes.
I'll tell you what we had planned is that we talked about on the phone. I wanted you to redeposit this today so we could capture that dishonest teller, but unfortunately it took a little longer than normal and the banks are closed. So rather than have you take that home and run the risk of somebody breaking into your home and steal it tonight, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this on police inventory. This is what this is. This is an inventory envelope. And I'm going to mark it with the inventory number. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to call you tomorrow morning. You got nothing to lose, and we really appreciate your time and your effort. You're really doing a good civic duty here. So are you going to be okay getting home now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have a safe trip home, and I will call you first thing in the morning,
Okay,
okay?
I'll be waiting for your call.
Take care, and God bless.
Thank you.
It's to every con artist's benefit to keep the victim from reporting the crime. How do they do it? By playing upon their worst fears.
A lot of people really want to retain their individuality and stay on their own. And if their family members would realize that, gee, grandma or mom is not handling her financial affairs in an effective way, maybe it's time for us to intervene, and the loss of that freedom is a very serious consideration to many of the elderly people.
So if you or someone you love gets a phone call from a bank examiner, how can you be sure they're really a bank examiner? Simple. They're never really a bank examiner. How can imposters get away with cons like these? What are the tools of their trade?
False identification is very easily obtained either over the internet, mail order. There's a number of different places that people can get false identification. Almost any type of identification that is legitimate, you can get that is not legitimate. Medical licenses, baptismal records. You can be a college student. You can have the identification from major universities. You can have military identification, driver's license identification. It's all available out there for a price. There is no set regulation for badges or identification cards. Everybody does it differently. And so you cannot actually look at an identification card or a badge or an emblem and say, yes, I can tell just by looking at that that's authentic. That's not false. There's no way to do that.
Con artists have been impersonating others for centuries. But what do you do when they impersonate you?
Identity information can be gathered a lot of ways. In a restaurant, a waiter could make a duplicate of the bill, and they can go through trash. As long as you have a credit card number, you don't need a credit card. You can call on the telephone to a merchant and order something to be shipped to you. This is just a hotel card, and if I had your credit card information, I would just use it to re-encode this card. So when I went to make a purchase, the clerk would just zip it through and read the credit card number, and they'll read the confirmation green, and they'll let me have the package. It's so easy.
To protect your identity, shred your bills. Drop your credit card payments in a secure mailbox, and periodically check your credit report for anything you don't recognize. Coming up next, what is it about your personality that makes you an easy target? Con artists are quick to tell you that the victim deserved what they got, that it was their greed that got them into trouble. And sometimes that's true.
Hey, come here, buddy, come here. I gotta show you something. Look at this, look at this. Oh, brand new, $999 in the store. I got a deal for you today. Where'd you get them from?
The secret behind the con is they suspend their ability to think, gain their confidence, make it it's urgent. Something has to be done right away.
I'm going to tell you something. I get you this today for $400.
Because every victim of every fraud I have ever interviewed, and I'm sure this holds true with law enforcement officers throughout the country, is that, what was I thinking? I know better. Why did I fall for this?
What would you give me for it?
I'll give you $200.
You got it cash on you?
Yeah. In fact, you weren't thinking. And you're not supposed to think, and that's why con artists are so good at what they do.
Give me 2.5, and I'll give you one that's got all the accessories.
All right, 2.5 is it, though.
Okay, all right, yeah. Here's one with all the accessories, and I'm gonna tell you, that is nothing. That's cheap, buddy. That is cheap. Okay, here, take that.
Some cons play not upon our greed, but our charitable nature. Milan Bultov gave over $12,000 to a phony hospital fund.
This $8,476 was given by me at various times because I was so in sympathy with the children and their suffering.
Any good con artist is going to use whatever the senior tells them about themselves against them.
I myself have leukemia.
If you tell me that you're a veteran of World War II, well, great, sir, I'm a veteran of Desert Storm. You know, we've got something in common. So you always look for an angle.
In other words, I sent $200, then I sent $2,000, then I sent $3,000.
And one phone call, the most I've ever taken from a senior citizen is $20,000.
I'm a typical guy that believes you're helping somebody, and then they end up they're just taking for a roll.
So before you give to charities, have them send you written information. Ask for their financial statements and make sure they're listed with the Secretary of State or the Attorney General's office.
In the United States last year, the estimate I had was there was over $40 billion lost on telemarketing, just over the telephone fraud alone.
The scam is simple. A telemarketer calls informing someone they've won a cash prize.
I'll be myself to start. I say, sir, my name is Bart Chamberlain. Congratulations. You've walked away with one of the biggest awards we've ever given away. $100,000 cashier's check. Congratulations to you. Now, Mr. Jones, I need you to hold on to the line for just a moment. The Executive Vice President of the company, Charlie Miller, wants to personally congratulate you. Now, I want you to hold on. I'm a little nervous. He's my boss. Hold the line just a minute, okay? Mr. Jones, Charlie Miller here. How are you? I want to extend you a very warm and hearty congratulations on behalf of my entire staff. Congratulations to you. Mr. Jones, Bart Chamberlain here again. Well, that was my boss. I'm a little nervous. But again, when he comes in the room and congratulates you, you know you've done very well for yourself. Now, I need you to hold on the line for just one more second here. I need to get my photographer, Mr. Robert Jones, on the phone. Hold the line. Mr. Jones, my last name is Jones, too. I'm Mr. Robert Jones from Mobile, Alabama. I'll be coming out to your house personally to take photographs of you. Congratulations.
So what's the con? Before you collect, you must first pay the taxes. The prize money, of course, you'll never see. But not all prizes are cash. This mailer seemed to promise the delivery of a $15,000 automobile for just a small shipping fee. Just choose the model you want. True to their word, they sent along a car all right. A model car. All telemarketing scams work off three key factors. You don't get the prize until you pay, you must decide right now, and you must pay right now as well. Experts tell us 60% of all fraud victims are senior citizens. Why? They're often lonely, socially isolated. They frequently have an old-fashioned naivete about them that allows them to trust strangers. And most important to a con artist is their nest egg. Add lonesome to elderly, and you create a combination that's easy pickings. Al met a woman 40 years his junior at a racetrack. A romance of sorts ensued.
March 12, 1995. I love her so much, I hope she feels the same and marry me. That's why I bought a house for us.
Well, I gave her the benefit of the doubt at first, you know, because that's what my dad wanted, you know, and after a while, I changed my mind. From what he said, they were getting married, they were going to move in together, and it was supposed to have been romantic.
Al bought the house sight unseen. She moved in, but Al never did. Something always seemed to delay the wedding.
He started losing antiques, or, you know, heirlooms would disappear piece by piece.
Nordstrom called about Bill. Told him I was responsible for Bill. Called her, said I needed credit cards to send back.
He was living in poverty. You know, it broke my heart to see him living like that. He has nothing, no food, that while she's living in a life of luxury.
And apparently enjoying the company of another man.
She's always with Jody in my car, as though they were married. I think hanky-panky is going on.
Well, he filed bankrupt, and that was about $30,000 worth. And so I had looked through all the paperwork and found exactly what was bought and when and where, and it was all stuff for her and her kids. It made him sick, ultimately. It made him sick. I mean, through some of his journals it said, God hates me, you know. You know, he wanted to hug her, and he went to hug her. And you should have seen the look of disgust right on her face. It was really awful. And it's just like she cringed at the thought of being hugged. You know, that's one of the moments I won't forget.
So why is this a crime? Since when is it against the law for one person to give their money to another? There are two factors when determining if it's friendship or fraud. Number one, is the person suffering from diminished capacity? And two, was there deception involved? Coming up next, Ricky Jay shows us his own brand of sleight of hand and why the internet can be a dangerous place to play.
Most con artists are not in it for the money. Oh, the cash is nice, but the real thrill, it comes from playing the game.
Master of the game, Ricky Jay is one of America's foremost experts in sleight of hand. Routinely, he delights audiences with his illusionary skills.
So I want you to really watch me closely, to scrutinize me as I shuffle the cards. Because at the end of all this shuffling, I know this sounds crazy, I'm actually going to try to do what gamblers call dead cutting an ace, which means to punch into the middle of a shuffled deck and be able to cut out an ace. This is an acquired skill. Let me show you one other example of this. And please watch me. Notice that there are no breaks or protrusions or bends in the card. And notice that when I do separate the decks and put them back together, I really am pushing them together and pushing them square. So what I'm going to try to do from this position is to be able to cut out an ace. Okay, and those of you who follow the laws of chance would know this gets increasingly harder. By the way, please notice that there's no ace directly next to that particular ace and no ace over here. By the way, I should show you that I occasionally have to practice cutting left-handed. That's in case someone breaks my right thumb. So let me see if I can cut another ace for you left-handed. Oh, lucky me. So that's the idea here. I've now cut out 3 aces, and again, please notice that there are no 2 aces together. Please watch me narrowly as I shuffle the cards. See that that's not an illusion. One more ace, an example of what gamblers call dead cutting or card control. The last ace. Say stop at any point while I'm cutting.
Stop.
That's fine. And that's the 4th ace.
Whoa. You're not going to show us how you do that, are you?
Most would agree betting against Ricky Jay would be foolhardy. But what kind of gamble are you taking when you go on the internet?
Most of the frauds and scams that you see over the computer or that a computer uses or over the internet, a lot of them are the same ones that people have been getting in their mailbox or ringing their telephone for a long, long time. The bad guys have now found out that it's a lot cheaper for them to mass hit a lot more people with the scams and frauds.
Everyone's going on the internet. All the criminals out there, all these people of deception, now they have a tool. They're going to be using the internet the way they used to stick up banks 100 years ago on a horse with a gun. Now they get on the internet.
Any other kind of crime that's taken place in the real world is taking place in the cyber world. Whether it's stalking, spam, the solicitation or harassing things through the internet, murder, selling of children, everything, credit card fraud, scams, it's all going on there.
They don't have to show you what they're really about. They can make believe that they're coming on as a friend. They can make believe that they want to be your friend, that they're going to help you when they have evil in their mind.
They can mask their email addresses, their screen names. You don't go face to face.
It is this veil of anonymity that brings out the most terrifying confidence artists of all, those who prey upon our children. Private investigator Bo Dietl developed a program that allows parents to police what comes into their homes via the World Wide Web. Allison Whitney is project manager for One Tough Computer Cop.
The program is contained solely on the CD, and you don't have to install. A parent doesn't need to answer any questions. It just runs right off the CD. First, it's going to scan for pictures, and those would be pictures that are native to the internet. And then it's going to compare its library of slang words, words from drug culture, from pornography, terms pedophiles may use, hate groups, bomb-making terms, things like that, and see if your child has been accessing those kinds of sites on the internet.
Talk to your kids about what they're doing, where they're going, what they're visiting. If you don't know about the internet, let them tell you about it. They'll be happy to teach you about what kind of things they do.
Other suggestions? Keep the computer in a common area where you can watch over it, and let your kids know to just sign off if someone is intimidating them.
A confidence scheme is designed to look like something it isn't. Sometimes it resembles a business opportunity, sometimes a romance, and sometimes even an old-fashioned county fair. But one key ingredient is what con artists call the blow-off. It means, quite simply, convincing the mark that it's their fault. If you've been victimized, please report it. Start with your local police. And remember, the post office, the state attorney general's office, the district attorney, and the FBI all have investigative units. Because a con that goes down quietly does nothing except leave the perpetrator free to strike again.